Let's do phones off, unless you're taking a picture of me and then you're allowed to keep it on. Ooh, caliente 3 joules.
That's nice and cool.
Nice. We're going to have a serious class tonight. We're talking about the great ideas of Buddhism. Before we do that, we usually try and generate a kind of mind that that is close to the mind that we want to become. So in each of us, we think we are a certain way, but in reality, we are not the way we think we are. We have been changing all our lives, and it is possible and highly probable that you will change again. And that change can appear random if you don't know what you're doing, or you can decide what that change will become, and therefore what your identity, who you think you are, what this thing called life in this body and this mind is. And to do that, we usually do this in the Tibetan system. We do this mandala offering where we imagine a perfect world. Imagine if you could perceive a world that is free from suffering, that there is nothing but bliss and joy and wisdom. And so you generate that in your mind. That creates an imprint in your mind, and that will have a result. So just by imagining a perfect universe, as best as you can, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's perfect for you. And then imagine giving that away. That'll create an imprint in your mind, and that must have a result. And that result will be equal to what you planted. So here, at the beginning of these classes, and in the Tibetan system, and actually from before as well, we make an offering to the highest being you can imagine. And I'm not here to teach you Buddhism, even though this is the great idea of Buddhism. I'm not interested in the isms. I'm interested in the reality of your life transforming. And if you call it Buddhism, Christianity, nothingism, I don't care. The laws of these things function whether the Buddha doesn't own them, whether you call them this or that. So I'm going to invite you, hey Missy, it's so nice to see you. I'm going to invite you to share with me making an offering of the mandala. If you don't know the hand posture, it doesn't matter, just do something like that. And you imagine holding a perfect universe and giving it to the highest teacher you've ever had, to the highest enlightened being you can imagine. That imprint will then be more powerful. And then we do this thing called taking refuge. I can explain that later.
Sashi Bukil Jushin Toptram Rira Nishir Nyunde Padi Sangye Shindu Mite Duargi Broken Namda Shinla Parsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kangiryatayami Sangye Idam Zogi Chotnamba Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Shinyan Gipe Sonamki Rola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chidam Zogi Choknam Ha Janchu Bardu Dakni Dapsuchi Daki Shinyan Gipe Sonamki Rola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye
Churam Zoki Choknam Yanchu Bardu Rakni Gyapsuchi Naki Shenyen Gipe Sonanti Rola Benchir Sangye Ruparsho. Welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be teaching this class. Can I ask, put up your hand if you've taken an Asian Classics Institute class before, an ACI class before? Put up your hands up high. Okay, 6 of you. Cool. Hey, nice to see you. Do we have a big cushion for Emily?
Oh, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, there's a big cushion.
Thank you.
The Asian Classics Institute courses, ACI, Asian Classics Institute, is really a miraculous thing that happened in the West and in the United States in particular in the early to mid 90s. And I had the privilege, the honor, and the luck, if you can call it that, to be in New York in the 90s when, after 1,000+ years of Buddhism deeply rooted in Tibet, it exited Tibet and entered the West. And the first American geshe, or doctorate of philosophy, got to teach and translate the 18-year course plus that a monastic university would teach in Tibet at the time. His Holiness the Dalai Lama had to go through this very curriculum. So in the 90s, it was being spoken here in New York City at this place called The Three Jewels. And I was fortunate enough to catch a chunk of it when I was traveling and ended up being stuck here because I couldn't take enough of it. That experience radically transformed my life in a way that I wish I could just grab the 20+ years of struggle with these ideas and changing my worldview and the blisses and disappointments that came to struggle with these ideas, but unequivocally my life changed. I wish I could grab that 21 years and shove it down your throats, whether you like it or not. So you don't have to go through these 20+ years of struggling, but I can't. You have to take life by the cojones, whatever you call them, yeah? And you have to apply these ideas and struggle against our habitual Western worldview to see if there's an alternate way of experiencing this thing you call life, you call my reality. The fact is, the reality we share together, you and I, and all the sentient creatures crawling over Manhattan today, is not the only way the world exists. The way the world exists in as many ways as there are sentient beings. And that doesn't come from anywhere else but something inside you. And that's okay to get intellectually. You can go, oh, that sounds nice, but the next millisecond, you still think the world is this way. And these teachings, the Asian Classic Institute courses, will shake up the way you look at the world. And it's hard, but it's magic. And I don't mean pixie dust magic, like ping, you're free of, no, that doesn't work. This class is not like that. Magic in the sense of just being in this room and hearing the ideas that it might be possible that our world is transformable by choice, by you designing your world. And then the work that is required to do that, if you can just do one experiment with these teachings and get a result, nothing will turn you back, because there isn't a higher truth than the one you experience putting these teachings into practice. And they're not exclusive to Lord Buddha. They appear in every mystic practice in the world, if you can find it. but you need a view to see it. So I hope that over the next few weeks where we talk in depth about these courses, you get just a taste. If you get a taste, then the thing is yours to play with. Yeah, I can't give it away. I wish I could. Actually, I wish someone had given it to me instead of having to go through 20 years of that stuff. So the 18-year course in Buddhism in the Tibetan system go through 5 great books on pramana, on perception, books on middle way, a different way of looking at the world, karma and emptiness, all these big words, books on Vinaya, moral, ethical code. What's Buddhist philosophy got to do with ethics? We're going to find that out today. Books on this book, which was added extra, called the Lam Rim, which is the entire Buddhist path. And the Buddhist path is not just some idea I want you to take away as, oh, I just learned something. You can go to university for that and go learn Buddhism at university. This ain't that. We're going to give you concepts here. You should struggle with them. And if you can put them into practice, you will become a person that holds that view, and your world will change. And Buddha don't own it. Yeah? But there are practices in the West which come from Buddhist philosophy, like meditation, like compassion, these buzzwords like samsara, karma, blah, blah, blah. We have these ideas about what that is, and those practices individually will only do so much. We need a path. The bottom line, I'll give you the punchline for the entire course right now and see if you want to come back, okay? The world we're experiencing has a mistake in it. And that mistake ain't out there. You can't go moving chairs around, changing girlfriends, boyfriends, jobs, career, whatever, to get you ultimately happy, ultimately Buddha, enlightened, woke up from the dream that we think we're living in. There's something in you that is dependent on the way you view your world and you act in your world that transforms the way the world appears to you. Which means, literally and ultimately, that you yourself can become what's called a Buddha, a woked up one that woke up from thinking I'm doing these things to get my world happy, but the things we're doing actually make us more unhappy because there's a mistake in it. If you undo the mistake, if you understand what the mistake is, you can change the way things happen to you and begin to design your world so you decide what happens to you and your world. That's the punchline. It's not for philosophy. It's fun to get an idea of philosophy. It's fun to get a meditation too. But what if, imagine this, okay? What if you could test these ideas and grab just one thing in your world? For me, 21 years ago, it was the most revolting, shitty boss you could ever meet, who was the devil himself, yeah? And just looking at me, my skin burned, yeah? And I thought my pain came from that guy out there who made my life hell, yeah? We all live in the world like that. So if I could get rid of him, if I could punch him, if I could yell at him, if I could hurt him, he won't hurt me, right? Normal human reaction. And that's the mistake. The more I hurt him, the more I hurt. The more I push him away, the more I'm pushed away. And so when I met this Buddhist monk, the first American to graduate in the Tibetan system in the same school as the Dalai Lama, when I met him, I didn't like him, and I didn't like what he was saying. He says, don't hate your angry boss, love your angry boss. I wanted to punch the monk. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, love your angry boss. He's hurting me. I don't want to love him. It's like, no. Understand where he comes from, which we'll talk about tonight, and transform the way you respond to him, and then wait. Watch how he will change, or he'll disappear from your life. And I was at such a desperate point in my life that nothing else was working, not lying to him, not looking for other jobs. I was so trapped and so desperate that I had to try this crazy idea from this weird monk. And 3 months of earnestly trying this experiment, I had peak experience with this creature who was the worst thing I'd ever met on the planet, the angry yelling boss. And after 3 months of really trying to say, it's not out there, it's in here, I'm going to try something different, the creature transformed into a most sublime and beautiful experience that showed me, shoved it down my throat, that my world was coming from me. 3 months of kindness, not yelling back, not doing the conventional things, doing the opposite, which felt horrible. It felt counterproductive, counterintuitive, counter-terrorist, whatever. It felt wrong, but it was actually the correct way of addressing life's problems. And after that 3 months pivotal experience, I couldn't get that out of myself. I had to live my life in accordance to that reality, because that reality trumped, the other reality. So I want to excite you, and I want you to realize the importance of what we're covering. This ain't just some nice, I'm going to relax at a Buddhist class. This ain't that, okay? You can get that as a side effect. It's not that you're not going to get that, but you can completely remove any and all things that harm your life, mentally or physically. Eventually, you will have the technology to figure out your own path out of what we call samsara, the cycles of suffering life. So I'll share with you what we're covering. We're covering the 18 years in a monastic university text. We condensed into about 5-6 years of teaching that we've already completed here at the 3 Jewels. Yeah, it was a lot of very in-depth information. That was called ACI 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 15. This course summarizes those entire 18 years into 1 year. And the first third of that is this course, the next 10 weeks, which covers the Asian Classics Institute 1, the thing we'll cover tonight, as text by the teacher of the first Dalai Lama, called the 3 Principal Paths, and all the other 5 ACI courses. The course on Buddhist refuge, which sounds weird, but this means this course will show you where real protection in your world can come from. Now, they call it Buddhist refuge, but even if you weren't a Buddhist and you understood this, you will have like an ultimate protection to any suffering in your world. The next course we'll cover, which will be 2 days per course, we'll cover what's applied meditation, the very essence of what the hell is meditation really, why does it work, and what should we use it for? And hopefully you can get a taste of that and put it together with the other concepts we learned up to that point, and really use meditation to stop your own cycles of things you don't want in your world. And you can terminate them permanently. And the more you do that, the closer you get to Buddha, to woke up. Yeah. Then we cover proof of future lives, the idea that when you die, life don't stop. That the things in your consciousness which produce your world continue to manifest after what happens to us called death happens. To me, that was one of the most fascinating things, because I came into this without believing in past or future lives. I thought that was all hocus pocus and pixie dust. I can't think that way anymore. After careful study and through logic, coming to the realization that this thing we call consciousness, this thing we call our reality, actually continues after this thing that you call your body stops. We'll cover that in some depth. And then we'll finish with a punchline, probably the hardest thing to talk about, even harder than emptiness. Emptiness is like this sexy, magical, secret thing, right? That's actually not that difficult to understand intellectually. Karma, a little bit more difficult. It's not what modern people think karma is, you know. Most people think it's bad luck. We're going to actually go into what the Buddha taught about karma and how does it relate to us. And what's amazing about these 5 courses put together, we get the chance in 10 weeks. For those of you that have done these took maybe a year and a half to do. For those of you that took a year and a half to do this, you're going to do that in 10 weeks. You're going to see the links between these ideas, and then hopefully a path will open up for you, and you'll see the reality that an understanding of emptiness, an understanding of karma, where to practice compassion, how to use that in meditation can actually take you out of samsara, stop cycles of birth and rebirth, and you will get a 3D picture of what was previously a linear understanding. So I hope that for each of you, wherever you're at in your world, something hooks your heart and says, my goodness, I heard these words, but I didn't know that I could practice them myself day to day and watch it transform my life. So I hope that that happens to us all. Are there any questions? Good. There is, and I'm going to encourage you, there is learning material. And that learning material you can find at hectormarcel.com. If you go to a tab that says course material, you will see the readings for these classes, the homeworks, the quizzes, and the final, and the cheat notes, the answer key, okay? So, and I don't care if you cheat. I really just want you to say, there's something in here for you. What is it? Can you dig it? Can you commit yourself to reading something, hearing something, and then trying to practice something? And only if you do will you get a result. If you sit in a class and go, oh, that was nice, it was nice and warm at the 3 Jewels, and there were lots of really sexy people, not me, it was them, you know, that's just going to be another place you hang out in. I'm suggesting, please, go deeper than just listening in class and hanging out with each other. That's important. Take a look at the reading material and participate in the quizzes and the homework if you can. Highly, that you'll get way more results that way than just coming to a class. If you really want something to change in your world, you must put the courses in place for that to happen. And the courses are inside you. This will teach you where. Yeah. Any questions there? Good. I guess what I want to summarize to tell you that quick overview of the content is that nowhere else have I found in my 50 years on the planet a complete path that I can understand. If you do A, B happens. If you do B, C happens, etc., etc., etc. And there isn't a missing piece. I can see logically cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect of your world, not just physical out there world, but your mind has events as well. And those events are caused, and they will give a result, cause, result. And so your mind can produce, you can choose, if you know the causes, you can produce the results you want. It's not exempt from the law of cause and effect. Fundamentally, that's the law of karma. These ideas give you the tools to go into your mind and check that out. So are we ready to fly? Yeah. Sí, por favor. Cool. So the first thing we want to do is meditate. I want to see if you can take a nice comfortable position. If you haven't meditated before, you probably have. If you don't remember, just relax. The key here is your spine should be straight, and I'm going to invite you to please try and forget anything that you have to do later or anything that's bothering you from before. Give yourselves an opportunity to have spaciousness right here, right now. If you can become an enlightened person, if you can become free of suffering, if you can become pure bliss, give that being room here. And a game I play is I grab all my worries and fears, I grab all my hopes and wishes, and I put them in a balloon, and I put them outside that door, and then I walk it down the stairs in my mind, and it's sitting outside the 3 Jewels on 4th Avenue in a little balloon full of my crap. Yeah? I invite you to give yourself just 5 minutes of freedom from that stuff that's always busy in your hearts and mind, And just imagine it ain't in this room. So together, if we can imagine that, then this room will be much lighter. In addition, I'm going to invite you to say, what would it feel for you to be in complete bliss, complete happiness, nothing disturbing your emotions and your mind? So take a comfortably seated position. Take a couple of deep breaths. Make sure your spine is straight. Really fill your lungs with oxygen and exhale any of those things that you're going to put in the balloons and push outside. Do a quick scan of your body from the bottom up. Just scan wherever there's contact between your feet or your thighs and the cushion or the chair. Gradually moving up your body, releasing any tension. Breathing into those parts of your body that hold tension and feeling it release. Maybe your torso. Make sure you relax your shoulders. They're not slumped forward. Your neck. And your face usually holds a ton of tension, so just remove any tension on your brow. Imagine a kind of smile on the side of your eyes. Nice. Now I invite you, please, anything that was bothering your mind that you need to think about, park it outside for the next few minutes. The next inhale, the next breath, try and imagine what it would be like to be free from all troubles, all misunderstandings, and feel a power like you've never felt before, an ease of being that is filled with bliss in your body and mind. Imagine how much goodness you can do in your world with that kind of peace and certainty. Imagine how many beings you could actually help if you knew how to get to that space of freedom from suffering. Imagine that with total knowledge and peace, you could look back at your old self, the one that was here before, and see exactly what they would need to do to get to that space of freedom. With certainty, you would know the path they'd have to walk. And slowly return to the room. Try and hold that feeling. If you had a moment of good meditation, hold that feeling and imagine the other people in the room got to some special place themselves and be happy for them. So I sort of got ahead of myself, but I wanted to share with you a couple of things. Why is it important to know these ideas versus any other ideas? We look for happiness in all sorts of places. I mean, for me, when I was younger, it was traveling. Traveling around the world was going to make me happy. And after a while, after too many cathedrals, yeah, and too many lines to get into the cathedrals, the places weren't getting me happy. What made me happy was actually the people that were going to these places, getting to know the different humans that were in all these places. But I couldn't sustain the happiness of travel. For other people, it's like career. You know, I wanna have like a lifestyle that makes me happy, and so we go and seek happiness through our lifestyles. For others, it's love. Yeah, or money.
What's the hippie doing?
The hippie is like love.
How they're
Dude.
doing so
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you really take a helicopter view of planet Earth and then look at it through millennia, human beings have been searching for that thing in all these modes. At the moment, it's this, right? We're lost in a little virtual world. We get a little buzz when someone likes an Instagram, got another follower. You know, that we do, we get a buzz, right? A number changes here on the screen, right? And you're like, it's weird. It's really weird. Yeah? Who has like iPhone hypnosis? You know the headache? Yeah, Stephen, I know you have. you get these things seeking that quick buzz, right? In fact, it's good for us if you are studying these things because it's so quick. If you can catch yourself going, I'm excited, someone's pressed the button, I've got a little... It doesn't do anything. It's pixels on a black screen that changed and you went... Or someone, your Instagram nemesis got another 1,000 followers and you're like... It's bizarre. Or you think you're having a friendship with someone because you've watched their stupid stuff for a week and you're like, oh, I know what they're doing. Hey, John, hi, I'm in your life. You're not in their life, you're looking at a phone. Yeah? Yeah. So where did the feeling come from? It ain't here. The feeling is something in you. Yeah? So we seek all these things. We go for the career. I'm moving to New York, so I'm going to be famous. Until you're not. But I'm going to have a nice relationship until you break up. I've got a lot of money. And then you don't. Humans for millennia have been doing that, moving the chairs out there to try and get that buzz. I'm not saying the buzz doesn't happen. The buzz happens, even when you get a stupid little red heart on a machine that you're holding and you're paying $1,000 for, or whatever stupid money you're paying to hold that thing in your hand so you can go, right? The feeling happens, but we don't know where it comes from. We think it came from that, so we go and do more of that. Or we think it came from that, so we go and do more of that. There's this lovely cartoon of a young man chasing cash that's flying over a cliff or something. He's getting closer to the cliff, and the cat, not you, Cliff, the other Cliff. Yep. And he's chasing this money, and then the next part of the cartoon is he's older and the money's closer, right? And then the last part of the cartoon is he's got all the money, but he's over the cliff. He's old and he's dead, right? And that's life. That's with money. We do it for sex. We do it for relationship. We do it for identity. We do it for recognition. We do it for Instagram likes. I am not saying you shouldn't have fun and enjoy your life. I'm not saying that. You must have joy. In fact, the ultimate result of these ideas is that you will experience an unsurpassable wish, a bliss that you can't stop. That's the point of this path. But it won't stop. The difference is here, the way we're chasing it makes it stop. The acts we do makes it go away. We're going to uncover that in this course. So All this stuff is temporary. All of it goes away. Something destroys it at the end. And there's this Tibetan saying that every goodness, if it's necessarily followed by a suffering, cannot be called a goodness. It is suffering. Even if you have 10 years of a blissful relationship, if your heart is destroyed when it's finished, it can't be called a happiness because it ended with suffering. They say it's like licking honey off a razor blade. Tasty, not nice, not sweet. Yes, sweet, not for long. So if it ends in suffering, it's suffering. Yeah, and we don't want to think about it in the West. We just want to chase more likes. Or it's not Instagram anymore, it's Snapchat. And when you're old like me, they'll be laughing at you because you did Instagram and Snapchat. They'll be like, you did that on the little black phones? So the point of this course, the ideas in these classes is to say, you can have all those things, but you don't have to have them go away. You don't have to have the razor blade. You can, but if you can only have them if you yourself understand where they came from and how to cause them. If you don't know how to cause your world, you're in the lottery of whatever comes your way. You've got no idea where your life comes from. I'm sorry to tell you, but sadly it's true. That hang-ups and bang-ups will happen to you. Channeling Dr. Seuss. Yeah. We live our lives in desperation, chasing stuff, and then that thing gets it. That's a metaphor for it finishing. And we don't know what made us happy. So we keep doing more Instagram things. See if we get the buzz, and the buzz disappears. Or we go to another cathedral. Yeah? Now, when I first heard that, I'm like, God, boring. Buddhists are so depressed. It's not the point. Recognizing the nature of your reality will actually let you address the reality. If you're pretending it ain't suffering, you ain't going to find the causes to stop the suffering. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. So, bit of background on this content. A long, long time ago, 2,600 years ago to be exact, there's this dude called Lord Buddha, right? I'm not going to do the whole story on Lord Buddha, but he's a creature like you and me, life problems, got married, babies, whatever story, and he, through some practice, got to realize that the world was not the way it appeared. And then he went about to experience the ideas I was just talking about, how to cause a world that is free from suffering, how to stop samsara, you've heard those words, how to reach a state of enlightenment. Yeah, one that woke up from the dream of what we think causes our happiness. Yeah, and he went about teaching that in India. Now, all that, India kept these ideas and they traveled all throughout Southeast Asia and all the way to Japan, even got to Greece. And about 1,200 years ago, in the year 700 roughly, it landed in Tibet. And Tibet is this horrible, desolate place with lots of ice and nobody wants to be there. So if you're there, you're stuck there. Sorry, I'm just being naughty. It's far away. Nobody goes there. So the good thing about that is when Buddhism, the ideas of Buddhism got there, these people were cattle herders. Yak herders. Yeah, yak herders. They're like really simple farm folk. And then these ideas got there, and it revolutionized the way they saw their world. There were warring gangs at the time. That stopped. It became a philosophy for the entire country, and then the region, and it's a big country. It was a big country. Yeah, and for 1,000 years, these ideas developed and stayed and took root. And the reason Tibetan Buddhism is a big deal is because it was frozen up there for 1,000 years, whereas the rest of the Buddhist ideas that went to Greece and Japan and China morphed with the cultures in Thailand, so morphed with the cultures that it interacted with. But here in Tibet, it was frozen for 1,000 years. Text in Sanskrit. The whole language of Tibet was designed only to speak of these things. So the words themselves are there to get our minds to these ideas that can free us from this constantly seeking happiness in the wrong way. Does that make sense? So that happened. And then in the 1950s, there was some conflict between Tibet and China, and the Tibetan ideas that were frozen in time exited Tibet, started going over the Himalayas and spilling over to the other parts of the world. It's a tragic thing that happened there, but it's an incredible blessing that happened here. These ideas, frozen in time for over 1,000 years, began to trickle out into the Western world. So you get the first wave of Buddhist thought punching up with scientific theory and Western thought of materialism. And in this room, we are fortunate enough that one of the teachers of the Dalai Lama was also the teacher of this dude called Ken Rinpoche, who's over there. And he taught the first Western Geshe, American Geshe, Geshe Michael Roach, these ideas, and that got translated in here in the 90s from Tibet into English. Yeah, and we really have a direct line from Ken Rinpoche, who was born and lived in Lhasa, who exited Tibet in the time of the conflict and then landed in India and eventually landed in New Jersey, of all places, Howell. And then Geshe Michael, from a young age, he had some tragedy. Within a year, his mother died of cancer, his brother killed himself, and his dad died. Yeah, so tragedy struck this kid who was hyper intelligent. He was at Princeton University, got the Presidential Medal of blah blah, and he's going to be a scholar and fantastic success story. His life destroyed, and he goes to India to try and save his mum. Actually, asks to meet the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama helps him with his mum and says, "Go study with Ken Rinpoche, who's in New Jersey." And there began Geshe Michael Roach's study of this 18-year curriculum. And then at the end of that, he translates it into English for the very first time here in the 90s. The ideas never touched our minds before, not in this way, not in such a thorough way. And so I feel extremely privileged and sort of, what do you call it when you think you're at the wrong place? Like you're not supposed to get this gift, you're not worthy of it. Is there a word for that? Where you're like, why me? I'm just some kid from, what's it called?
Blind man in a heap of trash finds a jewel.
Yeah, I felt like that, like a blind man in a heap of trash that find this jewel or the cure for all disease. And this monk gives it to me. I didn't even like him, right? This monk gives it to me. And I'm like, what do I do with it? And honestly, it changed my life. And I wish it could change yours in the way that I can sort of change mine. So that's where these ideas came from. The direct lineage you can trace back from Lord Buddha, 500 BC. When you see a number in red, you might want to pay attention because this might be the answer to the questions on your homework. The main text that we're going to study is called Lamtso Namsum. So say Lam, So, Namsum, which means the three principal paths. Yeah, and I want to explain a little bit what that means. The text is not long, it's like 4 pages long. It's 14 verses. It's just a tiny, tiny text. But it contains the entire path from I'm a schmuck to I got enlightened and whatever happens in between. And it's full of code, like metaphorical code, that if you study these courses, you can unlock those codes. You can understand what they mean. So the Lamtso Namsum was written by J. Tsongkhapa. Say J. Tsongkhapa. And that's the man with the pointy hat in Tanka over there. He had 2 disciples. It's also him over here, sorry, forget. He was born in 1357, passed in 1419. And really, what in Tibet in the 13 and 1400s, Buddhism had thrived, but there were all these wild ideas about Buddhist practice, and this practice doing this and that practice doing that, and it got a little raunchy and weird, right? So some people were doing like silly things, like harming themselves or harming others. And Tsongkhapa was like a great reformer of the time. He went and studied with all the great lineages from India and from Tibet, and then sort of brought them together into what's known as the Gelug, one of the four main schools of Buddhism. And he taught the first Dalai Lama. Yeah, and so his lineage comes all the way down, like Dalai Lama to Dalai Lama until today. So the Lamson Namsun by Tsongkhapa, his name is Lobsang Drakpa, that's his monk's name. You might have that in your thing, is where the main text that we're going to study over the next couple of days comes from, if we're going to unravel that code. But it's too in-depth for us to understand that code. We go to another commentary by a monk from the 1920s to 40s, 1800s to 1878 to 1941, and his name is Pabongka Rinpoche, or Denchen Ningpo. Pabongka Rinpoche was probably one of the most famous Buddhists of his time in Tibet, because he didn't just teach inside monasteries and became all academic. He actually took these ideas, took them to public spaces, like imagine going to Central Park and saying, hey dudes, this is what these monks and nuns have been studying for all these years. This is how you can apply in your everyday life. And he brought thousands and thousands and thousands of people would come to his teachings. One of his teachings is called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. It's this massive set of instructions on the entire path, longer Lam Rim, which is what we're studying. And he, one of his students was actually Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael's teacher, who is the founder of this place. He met Pabongka Rinpoche when he was young, I think just before Pabongka's passing. But one of Pabongka's main students was Trijang Rinpoche, this dude over here, who actually translated that series of lectures that Pabongka Rinpoche gave publicly that explained the entire path. And Trijang Rinpoche became one of the two main tutors of the current Dalai Lama. So the current Dalai Lama was studying with Trijang Rinpoche, teaching him everything that he knew from Pabongka Rinpoche and before. Does that make sense? You're not supposed to make anything up in Buddhist study. You're supposed to pass information down from scripture and oral transmission based on scripture. Otherwise, you could corrupt these ideas. Yeah, you could, and one tiny corruption could exit thousands of people from the possibility of becoming free from their suffering. So that's why lineage is a big deal and important. That's why I want to tell you that these aren't just ideas I'm sitting here sharing with you from my own mind, or Geshe Michael made up from nowhere. Everything we're covering here, you can trace all the way back to Lord Buddha and all the way back to Tsongkhapa, and we try and catch commentaries that are closer and closer to us, so we don't misunderstand the intent of those metaphors that we'll cover in those texts. So Trijang Rinpoche lived 1900s, and he taught Ken Rinpoche. Is that what we're up to? Ken Rinpoche, who wrote this book on the commentary on this three principal paths, the Lamson Namsun. Yeah, and you could get that book here. It's the first Buddhist book I read, and it blew my mind. It was very clear, very concise, and it contained the entire path, and that's what we'll cover for the rest of today. His name is Khenso Rinpoche.
He translated it, right? It was already written.
It's not. It was translated already, but I mean, he put it into the format that you see in this book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem. Ken Rinpoche also wrote the introduction to Trijang Rinpoche's commentary on Pabongka Rinpoche's, if that's what you were referring to. Yeah, and one of Ken Rinpoche's main students was Geshe Michael Roach, who is the only one still living from that lineage. and who actually was teaching these ideas here in the 90s. He now lives in Arizona. For more than half the year, he travels the world teaching these ideas in a very different way, in a very modern context. And rarely do we get to see him now teaching in this kind of in-depth way, maybe twice a year in Arizona. So we're very fortunate to have this information here. What else do I need to tell you about that? I wanted to tell you about the lamrims, or steps to enlightenment, right? Usually come in 3 flavors, right? Or it can be divided into 3 flavors. And you'll find out that motivation, the way you think about your intent behind an action, whether it be a thought or something you say to someone or a thing you do, the motivation behind it is actually what gives power to what we call karma, or the imprints in your mind. So you could study these ideas. Imagine really that in these words, in these ideas, is the possibility, the elixir of transformation for your world. Imagine that's really true. I think it is, but you need to figure it out for yourself. Imagine that's really true. Imagine saying, I'm going to drink that elixir and I'll be happy. Yeah? You can come at that action with 3 motivations. You know, and the first motivation, or they call the 3 scopes, is the lesser scope. It's like, I want that, so my future ain't worse than what it is now. Yeah. So in the Tibetan system, which believes in, or the Buddhist system believes in past and future lives, after this body is done, your mind's going to do something and be somewhere. And it's possible, if you look around you, that there are worse ways of being than being human. Animals, we can see, they're suffering beings. Yeah. Compared to us, they can't have the freedom we have to build their happiness, etc. They get chased, they get eaten, or they're eating something. Yeah, or worse still, we make them pets. Yeah.
Why is that word?
Yeah, I'm just joking. Some of them are very. Ken Rinpoche had this awesome little puppy who was like an enlightened being, and he would be teaching us many times. Yeah. But one of the scopes is, I'm going to drink these ideas and see if I can internalize them, so my next experience ain't worse than this one. Yeah, that's your motivation. And that will have a result. Cause, result. Make sense? Yeah. Medium scope is, you know, I'm sick of the cycles of suffering in my life. I get the job goes away. I get the girlfriend goes away. I get the boyfriend, oh no, I get the girlfriend, whatever you do to get yourself happy. Right, and it keeps going away, and you're like, I'm sick of it. I don't want to go through those cycles of myself getting unhappy all the time after I've chased happiness. So I want to drink that. So I'm done with these cycles of being human. I want freedom from that. Yeah, I want to reach a state of nirvana, freedom from my mind being weird. Just for me, be free from unhappiness. Make sense? You can still drink the elixir and go, I don't want to be worse than this. You drink the elixir and says, I want this to stop for me. Just I'll be happy. Yeah. Or the 3rd scope, the high scope, the greatest scope, is if I'm going to do that, why not do that for the rest of the world? If I'm going to become this superhero that's reached nirvana, why not do that for the sake of everyone else in my life who is also going through the same problems I'm having, who is also unhappy when things break, who's also traumatized when unexpected things happen. 2 days ago, a person jumped in front of the train at Astor Place. It rippled into our consciousness here in this room. Today, on the way here, I was a little late because somebody jumped in front of the train or fell in front of the train on 77th Street and on the 6th train. Yeah? Oh, they were saying that over the things, and all the trains are delayed because there's a passenger that was run over by a train. And so this, yeah, they said it over the.
They started doing that now because they found that it makes people more patient.
So it was horrific to sit there, and then I'm looking at everybody on the train waiting for me, and they're getting frustrated. They're like, I need to get uptown.
Seriously?
Seriously. Like the platform was full.
They weren't like, oh my God.
They weren't, well, I don't know what they were doing inside, but outside they were, not all of them. Some people were like lost on their phones. They had their iPhones. They were on Instagram. And a person just lost their life, either deliberately or not, I don't know. Yeah. Just on that same line that we were standing, on the same, and I imagine that we're connected. It could be you. It could be you, I was thinking, looking at the people on the platform. And yet, we're busy doing our stupid things. But when that moment comes, was it all worth it? All these activities you've been doing to this point, is that what you want to do with your life? And I was thinking that for those people on the thing. And I was thinking that for me. What do we do with this precious human life? Imagine there is an elixir that can solve your issues in your world and free you from this constant cyclic experience that we have here. I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I'm happy, I'm unhappy. Imagine there was a way to really do damage to that mistake and actually be in a state of happiness. Imagine that's possible. Wouldn't it be worth pursuing? So if you pursue that, you could pursue it in 3 ways, right? I don't want my life to be worse, or I'm going to pursue it so I can get happy and then I don't have to deal with people jumping in front of the train. Or I'm going to pursue that so I can figure out how to stop everybody, whoever comes to a state of mind where they want to take their own life. You don't need to do that. You only do that if you don't understand that it's possible to get really happy. And imagine you could do that. That feeling we're going to talk about is one of the 3 principal parts. Yeah. So the greater scope is like, if I'm going to become a superhero, if I'm going to really do damage to this mistake that is the sufferings of my life, the tiny little unhappinesses to the great big problems. And you can. Cause and effect tells you can. Understanding this tells you how you can. The rest you've got to do. Yeah? So this book we're studying is called the It means
3 principal paths.
And when we say paths, I don't mean roads, okay? A path is like your mind shifting, having a realization that is unshakable. So there's 3 big realizations that you can come to, 3 big states of mind that you can transform. And with those 3, you are on your way to that freedom we talk about. And it's not like some weird idea. I'm talking about full embodied joy and wisdom, complete understanding and bliss as you understand. So here goes. The 3 principal paths contain of. The first one is, does anybody remember?
Renunciation.
Yeah. So renunciation. Did I do that? I'm not yet. Yeah. Renunciation. This sounds, I wish it had a different word, right? Because renunciation sounds like, boring, depressing. No. Renunciation is a fire. It's a fuel. It's actually when you are sick and tired of this life having these mistakes, of you having to once again get up off your cushion and try a different thing to get happy. When you yourself have to go and talk to another person and say, no, don't screw up your life doing that. Renunciation is when you're sick and tired of cause and effect in the way you think you have to do. Get the other job, get the other girlfriend, better career, get another house, find the puppy, whatever the stupid, get another like, find another Instagram account. Yeah? All those stupid things we chase for happiness, that there is another way. If you're sick and tired of chasing it that way and saying, I need another way, a way that really works. Not that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Yeah? Because get this is so simple we miss it. If something doesn't always give you the result you want, then the cause isn't what produces that result. If you think getting happy in your relationship is finding the right partner, the right boyfriend, the right girlfriend, then every time you find them, you must always stay happy, right? The fact that it changes means that wasn't the cause of your happiness. It ain't in the boyfriend. There's something in you that changed, and then they changed. Or maybe they didn't change, and you changed. Something else is at work. When you're sick and tired of guessing where your life comes from, what makes your unhappinesses, and what makes it, and when you're sick and tired of saying, the world has been trying to figure that out for millennia, and nobody's figured it out. We're just still addicted to this external way of finding happiness. When you're sick and tired of that, you've reached renunciation. Renunciation I'm done with that old way of thinking. I'm seriously trying to figure this thing called life out before I end. I want to fill my mind with the right ideas before this life ends, before the train comes. Renunciation is when you think about it night and day. That's the first of the three principal paths. That gives you fuel and energy to say, no, I'm serious about waking up. I'm serious about, I've got this precious opportunity in this thing called human life. And I have this mind that can perceive this world. And maybe there's something in me that I can shift to see that world in a way that really causes me happiness. So the next of the three principal paths, the three big ideas that we have to habituate in our minds to get to enlightenment is, we call it bodhicitta. Yeah. Does anybody remember bodhicitta? What it means?
Waking mind.
Hmm?
Waking mind or mind awakening.
Bodhi, awaken, or Buddha, yeah, and chitta,
Awakening.
mind. Yeah. So sometimes it's translated as mind of the Buddha, right? So I want to clarify for those of you who have studied, it ain't the mind of a Buddha. Okay? It's actually so far away from the mind of the Buddha. It's really far away from it. The mind of a Buddha is constant bliss and wisdom. Yeah? Knows all things at all times and is in a complete state of bliss. Bodhicitta definition:
Wish to attain.
the wish
To attain.
Enlightenment.
to reach enlightenment for the sake of you and everyone else. Yeah? So it's the wish to get the mind of a Buddha. You see? Bodhicitta is the wish. Because you have renunciation, I'm sick and tired of life not working out. I want a different way of figuring it out. It ain't going to be finding the best job. It ain't going to be finding the other girlfriend. It ain't going to be multimillionaire. You might get all those things, but you're not attached to that. I want a different way of looking at the world. And their renunciation, that gives you the fire to say, I'm sick of suffering. I want out of suffering. And then the next thought, which doesn't take stretch, is like, why just for me? I want that wish to wake up for the sake of everyone else. And then there's this thing called bodhicitta, yeah, which bodhisattvas have. Yeah, warriors on the way to freedom, warriors on the way to waking up. Please forgive me if I use words that are too Buddhisty. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to make it as real as possible. So if I say too many stupid Buddhist words, you can send a complaint to www. No, I'm kidding. You cannot.
Steven.com.
3jewels.org. And Stephen will answer. So the third of the paths, the third thing you have to do to your consciousness, to your mind, is this thing that's it's called correct view. Yeah, correct view is a kind of wisdom of understanding the ultimate way reality functions. Yeah, and I'm going to do this if someone throws me a pen. Thank you. So if you've heard it before and you don't feel it in your bones, you didn't hear it before. Okay, Alan, you ready? What's this? It's a pen. Actually, I should just show Stephen's video, right? Anyone seen that video? Yeah.
What? You did a video?
It's a pen, right? We know it's a pen, right? And we think it's a pen. When I show you this thing, you say pen. Okay, now, correct view lets you understand that although we say it's a pen, is pen really there in this thing? And under just a millisecond of investigation, we can determine that the way this thing appears as a pen ain't the way this thing is separate from us. What I'm saying is, if a puppy dog comes in the room and I wave it at it, what is it then for them? A chew toy, because they're going to salivate and they're going to go, exciting. And the human says, no, you stupid dog, it's a pen. So I want to punch the dog. Yeah? And the dog wants to growl at me because I'm wasting a perfectly good chew toy. So war happens between the animal realm and the human realm about this object, because this object, when there are dogs and humans in one room, is two things. It's a chew toy and it's a pen, right? Can one thing be those two things at the same time?
Yeah.
Can this thing by itself, if I put it down and all the dogs leave and all the humans leave, is that a chew toy or a pen?
Neither.
At that time when there's no one watching, what is it?
Nothing.
It can't be a pen. It's only a pen when?
When I perceive.
When humans look at it. It's only a chew toy. It's a chew toy when?
When the dog sees it.
When foreign dogs look at it, yeah. A chew toy. So then you have to ask yourself, where did pen come from if it ain't in this object? We can agree there is an object, right? It's not that there isn't an object. But it ain't pen when there ain't humans, and it ain't chew toy when there ain't dogs. Was there penness in there radiating out, going pen, pen, pen? No? Yes? No. If there was, then dogs must think pen. If this had pen in it, then every creature that looked at it must go pen instead of chew toy. And we know that's not true. I know it's so simple, really. It sounds like that's too simple. I'm being tricked. No trick, people. This is reality. Reality is there ain't chew toy in here until there's a dog. There ain't pens in here pushing itself out until there's a human. So where must pen have come from? Because we know it's a pen. Where did pen come from? This way or that way? That way. Where did chew toy come from? This way or that way?
This way.
That way. Something about the consciousness of those creatures are forcing them to experience this object as chew toy. Something about these creatures are forcing us to experience this object as pen. And it functions for us as pen, and it is a pen for us. Now, why the hell am I telling you a boring story about pen?
You're a boring guy.
Thanks. And please listen if you listen to nothing else, yeah? If this is true for this object, it is true for this object. Ain't wallet coming out there, yeah? It is true for this object. It is true for this object. It is true for light. It is true for sound. It is true for taste. In fact, our senses, we think, are capturing pen, sound, etc. It's the opposite. We are 6D projectors, 6D projectors of this thing we call the universe. Our eyes are projecting a reality over something that is empty of being pen from its own side. There ain't pen in there, it's empty of pen. And chew toy, it's empty of chew toyness. It doesn't have that nature. It is empty of that nature. And that is true for sound, taste, touch, the rest. The entire universe we experience is ultimately in the same nature as this. Now, you have to chew on that, pardon the pun, pardon the pen. You have to chew on that. And if you come to understand it logically, which it isn't hard to do, that's emptiness. The emptiness of this thing is that it doesn't have that nature out there. It's empty of that. If that's true for that, check this out, and this is the goal of Buddhism. It is true for this thing called your body. There ain't arm radiating arm. There's something in you forcing human arm. Just like on this appendage, a cockroach can see a different appendage. Same for the identity of who I am. Something is forcing us to think, this is the Hector Hector is. Your idea of Hector is different to my idea of Hector. Who's right? Well, correct. Dependent on whom? You. And it's not by choice, okay? It's not like I wanted to be diamond wand now. It's not that, okay? Something is forcing us to see pen. Something is forcing that to see chew toy. Something is forcing you to think you have a normal human life that must age and get sick and die. It is projected, just like we project this object. This whole thing called the planet and humanity is projected, and that's what makes it real. It's not that it's separate from real. That's the only way that makes it real. Understanding that every single thing you lay eyes upon and touch and so on is a fabrication of your mind. It's a constructing of your mind based on stuff in your mind. You then have to ask, well, what is it that forced me to see that? Because it ain't out there, pen. It ain't out there, suffering world. It's something projected. And if that's the case, then you have a ticket to freedom, because you can change the things that are projecting if you know that technology and test it, and you will see that it's possible. And then nothing can stop you. If it was out there, if it was pen by itself projecting, if it was suffering, samsara out there projecting, you're screwed. You may as well jump on front of the train. And that's why people do. So depressed people are almost right. Depressed people see the world sucks, it's suffering. I've got no control over it. They're like, oh my God. And then they get depressed. And then they can't move. And I've felt those things, and I have friends who are there. But they're missing one component, the understanding, the correct view that the world out there isn't the way it appears. The way it appears is forced upon it from something else in us. And that something else is the whole study of karma, which we'll get to. If you understand that, if you understand that this ain't pen from its own side, that something in you is forcing you to see pen, and then you figure out what it was that forced you to see pen and not chew toy, because something's forcing someone else to see chew toy, if you can figure that out for that, you can fast forward all the way to this human life, this conscious being doesn't have to be human the way we experience humans. You have a ticket to transform it for real, not like pixie dust imagination. Do you get the logic? Yeah? Does it hurt your mind a little? Yeah, because we're so habituated in seeing the world coming this way that anybody that says to you, hold on, you're doing this, it hurts. It's hard to hear. But logically, you can't unprove it. And if it's a truth, that is correct view. The view of emptiness, the wisdom that says everything in my world is transformable if I know what to cause for me to project a reality. Now, quick summary on the law of karma, how we project the reality. It is done by what we do to others in our world, the intention with which we love or hate the world around us. Cheat, or what's the opposite of cheating?
Being loyal.
Thank you. Or be loyal in the world, right? The way we act in the world, be the change you want to be in the world, there's a wisdom to that. Whatever you do, returns. Do unto others. It's not there for coincidence. It's tapping into a wisdom that lets you produce the causes to project a world that you want. Now, the work takes time. You can't go grab a bunch of seeds, put it in the ground, cover the ground. I just did some good karma and then wait for it to come up now. It ain't happening that way, right? You'll say, oh, I've got these seeds. I want to stop hunger. I'm putting them in the ground. I'm covering it up. My hunger must stop now. No. How long will it take for your hunger to stop based on those seeds? As long as the seeds will take to grow. Do you know how long it'll take until they give fruit?
Depends on how well you rejoice.
It depends. Good. It depends how much water and sunlight and whatever, but actions produce results. Results take time. And this is one of the most difficult things in this path. You develop these three principal paths, these three core ideas in your mind, and they will have a result, but it won't be instant. Yeah? You must nurture them. You must water them. You must weed them. The first one you build, the habit you begin to build in your mind is, I'm sick and tired of things not working the way I thought they did. I'm done with that. Let the rest of the world figure that stupid thing out. I'm doing a different way. I'm trying a different way, a radical new internal way. I'm going to appear normal, but internally, I'm going to do something wildly different in this world. Like not yelling back at the angry, stupid boss when I should yell back because the guy's an ass. I'm going to try and plant a seed of kindness and wisdom as he's yelling at me. It's not what I should do. I should punch him in the face, right? Holding off from punching him in the face and trying to see him as a beautiful, good person, which he isn't, caused my mind to produce a projection onto that creature later on that became the most, like I hadn't felt love towards a person like I felt love for him towards the end of my 3-month experiment. And if you don't know that story, go to TEDx Bushwick and check out the story. Now the results, so you're responsible for developing that, sick and tired, developing, it's not just me suffering, I'm sick and tired for all these people jumping in front of the train. They shouldn't do that. They don't need to do that. It's a tragedy that they are thinking that that's a way out. It ain't a way out. They continue, and they continue in the way that they left. If you're full of negativity, your next iteration is going to be similar to that. It's horrible. Suicide isn't a way out. It's actually a way deeper in. It's like a lottery. You don't know what comes next. It doesn't stop. And then lastly is, can I habituate my, so first, can I habituate my mind to say, I'm sick and tired, I need this fuel, there is a way out. Secondly, it's like, my God, I wish I could wake up for the sake of everyone else. There's an important thing in there we'll cover later. Can you generate a state of mind of like, everybody in the world around me is suffering in some way, whether I like them or not like them, I should not want them to suffer. Yeah, and then can you develop that to some kind of genuine, real love for strangers on the platform that you wish they'd never got that feeling of wanting to jump, that they never got to that point in their life where they just gave up, that it is possible for them to be happy, really happy, and it ain't got to be in the girlfriend and all the other things they take refuge in. It'll be something in them, and I hope that they wake up. Can you develop that in your mind, that habit in your mind, that it becomes second nature? If you do, you're 2/3 of the way towards waking up, 2 of the 3 principal paths. And the last one, the all-encompassing one, the most important one, is that all of that and everything you do ain't the way it appears. The way it appears is not the way things are. Things aren't the way they appear. The way they appear has to do with what you've got inside of you, which forces you to be kind. This is the all-important link between the understanding, correct view, the understanding of reality, and morality, ethics. You want a happy world? Give happiness to your world. Imprint your mind with happiness, and that's what the projector is going to put out. You want wisdom in your world? Teach your wisdom in your world. Yeah? You want your girlfriend, boyfriend to stay by your side no matter what happens? Respect other people's relationships, because that's creating the imprints that force your projections onto an otherwise empty reality, yeah, and give you your reality, the one that functions, comes from you. That's the beautiful mix between ethics and emptiness. Yeah. So anyway, what's the result of having these 3 states of mind develop inside you? The wish that things stop breaking and I want a new way, that I want to help everyone else get there too, and that I understand the mechanics of it through emptiness. Yeah. The results of these 2 bodies of the Buddha, and for those of you who have studied, you can divide it into 3 or you can divide it into 4, right? The Rupakaya is the physical body of an enlightened being. It's divided into 2, for those of you who care, the enjoyment body and the projection body. Just like your mind now perceives you with a physical body, this body ain't gonna stay here for long. It's gonna get old and die and rot, yeah? Just like that, a mind of an enlightened being, a being that is free from sufferings and the mistake, also experience a body, but it ain't a body like this. It isn't a broken body that gets old and die. It's a kind of They say a body of light, yeah, a perfect body that doesn't age and the rest. In fact, they say, when they say body, they mean parts, yeah. There's a physical part to that being, that like we have a physical part, but theirs is free from the problems we have with this one. So if you have aches and pains and so on, they don't have that. Yeah, it isn't like gross physical form either. And then they also have this thing called projection body, the capacity for their physicality to appear on a train and whisper just the right thing to the next person to stop them from going on the platform. Yeah, they appear wherever they are needed, dependent on the projection of the person needing the story. Yeah, so the activity of a bodhisattva, of a person walking around the planet with the wish to help everyone, the activity of that, the doing of that will produce the physical body of a Buddha. Yeah, and the view, the habituating of your mind, the correct way of looking at the world, not this way, that way, will produce the enlightened mind of a Buddha, or the Dharmakaya. Yeah? Does that make sense? Your habit of helping others and wanting everybody to be free from suffering will produce your physicality as bliss. Your mental efforts to try and understand the ultimate nature of reality, the ultimate wisdom that underlies all of this universe, will produce your mind, the Dharma Kaya, the mind of a Buddha. The enlightenment, which is its omniscience, means it can see all things of all time, past, present, and future, in the now. Yeah, and it sees its ultimate nature at the same time. Do you want a quick break? Am I boring you? You're very quiet. Aaron, you look bored. No? I just wanted to joke. I want to slip into, let's see, two bodies. I want to talk about tantric practice. When you realize this thing, bodhicitta, this kind of wish for enlightenment for the sake of everything, when you really experience that as a visceral sensation after a peak experience, the study of this course is really for one purpose, for a peak experience in the human world that we live in. It's called the direct experience of emptiness, the direct perception of emptiness. That happens through a ton of study and a ton of effort on these three principal paths, particularly the path of correct view. Yeah? Am I talking your language so far? No? Weird? Yeah, good. Questions? Okay. So if you are really making efforts to understand how reality truly functions, and you're really making efforts to take care of other people's sufferings, remove them, not in a self-existent way, in understanding that there are ways you can really help them, and the ultimate way you can help them is you getting free from suffering, then you can really help them. Yeah. These things, plus a ton of meditation, will generate the conditions for you to have a peak experience where you realize that things don't have a nature directly. And at that point, you will be free from doubt, free from you will be free from guessing whether or not doing this thing will get you a result. At that point, once you have a direct experience of what we just described, imagine you're sitting in meditation, you've studied for a long time, you've practiced, you begin your mind sort of imbued in these three principal paths, and you're serving other people, you're really studying, you're meditating regularly, you get to a subtle level of your mind, and you actually see how your mind constructs your reality, and you have a direct perception of the lack of inherent existence in things, the emptiness of things. In that peak experience, when you come out of that peak experience, you are a transformed person. And that's the goal of these three principal paths. The goal is for you to have that peak experience in meditation, which takes work, as much work, they say, as a concert pianist learning how to be a concert pianist. It's hours of practice with a qualified teacher, understanding the nuances of concert pianoism. Yeah. The difference is that once you learn to be a concert pianist and your body gets old and finishes, when you have a direct experience of the way reality ultimate functions and what your relationship to it is, that you can't undo. It's in your mind. Yeah, it's in your consciousness. You can't undo that. So after that peak experience, they say you're a stream enterer. You're on your way on a conveyor belt out of the cycles of suffering because you saw something about your world that is truly ultimate, that is that underlies your whole experience. And with that understanding, you can go about creating the ultimate forces for freedom for yourself and others. So understanding the three paths produce your two bodies of the Buddha, or the two parts of yourself as an enlightened being, your physical part and your mental part. In tantric practice, you put that in steroids, on steroids. You do that extremely fast and extremely powerful. You understand the actions of your day in, day out, with an understanding of where things really comes from, produces an inner experience that lets you stop the cycles of suffering in one lifetime. And these three paths and tantric secret practices in Buddhist tradition are intricately linked. You can't have one without the other. So for those of you that have heard tantric practice or are lured by tantric, it's not something that happens to you outside. If you understand the pen, it's not like some lama from Tibet or wherever with a nice hat bongs you over the head and all of a sudden you're like, ding, I'm going to be happy. You're not going to be happy if something inside you is producing unhappiness. You're not going to do that because somebody bonged you on the head. Because if bonging on the head produces happiness, then I'd be happy. My mom used to bung me on the head a lot. Sorry, Mom. What I'm trying to say is that there are methods and practices in the Tibetan system, in all Buddhist systems, but in and of themselves, they don't do anything. Ultimately, these three principal ideas are the foundation to all transformative experiences. And tantric path is like the fast track to enlightenment. It ain't working out there. It only works if you're projecting it by what you did to others and what you do to others and how much correct view you hold. So these three, and then if you did the right things and you did them with the right power, understanding what produces your world, then tantric experience will happen to you. You don't need an initiation from it will appear for you. It will manifest for you as an experience. With certainty, you can then walk the plan and say, I know how to transform my world. There's a question, I think question 14, that says, how do you know you've developed renunciation? There's this beautiful line in the main text we hopefully get to read to next Thursday that says, think of your mothers, think how they feel. They are chained up in a cage of pitch black ignorance, chained up in the fourth and thrown in the four fierce river current or something like that. And the four fierce river currents are birth, sickness, aging, and death. And you know you've reached renunciation when you can't stop thinking about that night and day. You want freedom for yourself and then ultimately others. I'm going to cover 3 or 4 more things. Are you good for that? Next half hour?
Yeah.
Ready? Here we go. Actually, what do you think so far? Tell me where your mind is at. Open question.
I was thinking something.
No, that's wrong.
No, I was thinking that, I mean, I think it's going to sound super pretentious.
Go for it.
But maybe I can share it. I mean, I don't think I had the experience of the perception of emptiness, but I see all the time how things come from my inside. Like, this is the word I didn't.
Nice. I know you, and she's an artist, so she's forever in that space where she's creating stuff, right? And you enter a kind of meditative state as you create your art. And I think artists craftspeople, musicians, people that go into that side of the world, like Reiki practitioners, etc. They have that kind of experience of the world that isn't linear and black and white and so on. So you have more access to that. Something I'll share, so I can sound pretentious. Yeah. Is I was sitting the other day outside of a restaurant while Stephen was getting food, and you know, when you have a moment to yourself, what do? When you have just a tiny moment to yourself to rest, what do? Grab your phone, right? Which is so stupid, but we do. I was like, I had the impact to go, and I caught myself, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna just look at the world. Now, where does the world come from? According to this, if you understand this, where does the world come from?
From you.
From us, right? Something come. So I know that now. 20 years. I think it finally entered last week, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit there. I didn't sit there and try and see how the world comes from me. I just said, I'm just gonna observe the world. And there was a tree in front of me, and the leaf moved. The leaf moved, and then all the other leaves moved because there was a little bit of wind. And then I got the entire scene. I'm in front of the street. Traffic is moving. People are walking. I can hear honks and the horns. The whole world is dynamic, yeah? And I could see how it could just appear mundane, like a pen, just a tree and a street and dog shit and, you know, Bushwick. I live in Bushwick, so it's a lot of dog shit, yeah? But because of the seeds I put in my mind, because of the thinking and teaching these ideas, this thing, I could feel it push out into that scene. And the leaf moving was just this magic, this little shape going like that, and it caught a bit of the light and it had a little bit of a shimmer, and I'm like, my God, that's just stunning. And the whole tree's moving, and oh my God, this thing is moving. And I got this bliss, this beautiful sensation that this world is perfect. Now there's dog shit and it's Bushwick and there's honking, right? But my sensations were perfect. And I remembered my holy teacher, the monk I didn't like. And if it were not for him teaching me the pen, teaching me that the world comes from me, I could have just thought that was a nice feeling. But instead I knew with certainty that I could not have had that bliss had I not been kind and tried to teach that bliss to others in the past. And then all of a sudden it just became alive, like the fire that lights the universe is there in front of me. This scene of what otherwise shitty Bushwick appeared like this magical manifestation of projecting this world that made me feel bliss, and could only have come from that kind of thing that I did in the past. So I'm not saying I'm sitting there observing emptiness like you weren't saying, but I had a real experience that thing out there is totally my manifestation. Because last week it was something weird. Today it was something blissful. And that power can free you, because if you can do that for 1 minute, you can do that for your whole life if you just know how to do it. So let me tell you that all these things that I'm telling you are good and well, but like a concert pianist, you can't just go on your own and try and figure this out. It will take you too long, and this body will end before you figure it out. So you need a qualified teacher to learn from. You wouldn't dare become a concert pianist all on your own from YouTube. There's something that happens between you and a teacher. Yeah? Who's had like magical teachers in their lives, like high school teachers, and you remember them, right? They impact your mind much more than YouTube. Yeah? Well, if you go to a hairdresser, sorry, I'm jumping here. If you go to a hairdresser, what's the worst that they can do to you? Bad haircut, right? And that's going to grow back, right? If you go to a bad doctor and they cut the wrong thing, what's the worst that they can do to you? Death, right? Okay, but according to Buddhism, you get another life. Sorry, you get to die again. If you get a bad spiritual teacher, someone that teaches you these ideas in the wrong way, in a way that you cannot verify, in a way that you just have to follow them or for the sake of following them, and or they give you the wrong information about emptiness. If they teach you emptiness in some other weird way that isn't functional for you to get out of suffering, you're screwed for lifetimes, because it's an imprint in your mind, and your mind is what's projecting your reality. So finding just the right teacher, and everyone has a different demeanor, and you all have different teachers. Yeah? Finding the right teacher is like the very foundation of you getting from schmuckness to enlightenment. Yeah? Human normal to extraordinary. You need to find someone that has walked that path or is ahead of you in that path, and someone that you can connect with for yourself. That there are many lineages of Buddhism because there are different modalities for people to engage. But you've got to verify them. You've got to check out your teacher. So there's this list I want you to learn, which is the 10 qualities of a qualified Lama or teacher. And this is suggestions that have been in the Tibetan tradition for a long time that say, please look for these things in the person you'll trust your mental real estate to. Check them out, really test them before you go and commit yourself. But once you do, then dive in deep, because you want to be that concert pianist, but more. You want to be the one that transforms your life. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. The first 3 are related to the 3 trainings, and the first one is they say that they are tamed, yeah, which means they have practiced the training of ethics, of morality, right? That they have some kind of control around their behavior. At the very basics, let's say basic pratimoksha vows are the 10 non-virtues. They don't kill, steal, disrespect other people's relationships, lie, divisive talk, harsh words, idle, wasting time,
Craving.
no
Craving.
Well, I thought it was being happy when.
Yeah, let's summarize it. Being happy when something bad happens to someone, being unhappy when someone gets what they want. Yeah, these are all common human traits. That's the very, and then the last one, number 10, correct view. Remember that? Meaning, investigate your reality. Understand where things come from. Yeah?
Yeah.
Have correct view. So at the very basics, the morality of the 10 virtues are those. And they go more and more subtle, So you go through monks and nuns, pratimoksha vows, then you get to bodhisattva morality. At the beginning, you're stopping yourself from hurting the world. And that creates certain imprints which let you project certain realities. But it's not enough. You need to get more subtle. You don't need to stop hurting the world. By nature, we hurt the world. Yeah, we harm others. I'm jealous because she got happy. Stupid. I just created badness for me because I got jealous. Yeah? Or I like that. I'm going to steal it, take it. That's only going to produce the same, but the opposite, meaning I won't have enough of what I want. Yeah? It sounds simplistic. We'll cover it in more depth. But the bottom line is morality is what creates our world, the way we enact. And the very basics, the very rough morality is harming others. Stop harming others. Then the second level up from morality is bodhisattva vows, bodhisattva activities, the wish to help others, right? Which means instead of stopping harming, do good. Yeah, so all of a sudden you powered up. You didn't just stop the imprints from your world hurting you. You are now creating the imprints for your world blissing you out. Yeah, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And the third morality, or the third set of vows, are the tantric vows or the secret vows, which are really the other 2 on steroids. Yeah, super fine, very delicate states of mind that you try to tame. So you're doing such powerful imprints that the result is faster. So you're planting, I don't know, Jack and the Beanstalk beans. Yeah, like the ones that go. Okay, and that's my summary for enlightenment. So look for a teacher that is tamed, that is practicing refraining from hurting and taking care of others. Does that make sense? Has practiced the first of the 3 trainings. The second training is
meditation.
Yeah.
Probably shamatha, right? Like,
Yeah. So do they have the capacity to focus their mind? Can they reach a point of stillness in their meditation? Are they not only tamed, but can they reach deeper and deeper, more subtle states of mind where they will find that ultimate experience of emptiness? Yeah? Are they well trained in the practices of meditation and concentration? So look for that in your teacher. What's the third one?
Perceiving emptiness.
High peace.
High peace. It means,
Having perceived emptiness directly.
yeah. So,
I thought
or they
there
have an understanding of emptiness. Yeah, they have an understanding of emptiness. If you can find somebody that has perceived emptiness directly, which they won't tell you because it's part of the ethics of them, blah blah blah, that's the person you want. You want to be certain that the person you're engaged with has either a direct experience of the ultimate way things appear or an intellectual understanding of that. Does that make sense? So they are well trained, well versed in correct view. First three.
I thought there was a separate one that.
There is. It's coming up.
Oh.
Yeah. The next one is that their quality should exceed that of the students. So take on a teacher that has experienced what you're going to go through. Yeah. Don't give your mind to somebody who's just starting out like you. Give your mind to someone that can really stretch you, really pull you, really has capacity bigger than yourself. Is rooted in joy. What's actually the Tibetan here is effort, has effort. Yeah?
Joyful effort.
Exactly. So it's joyful effort, which is the quality of being happy, doing good. Yeah? Has joy in doing goodness in the world, helping others. Is rich in spiritual knowledge. What are the two dharmas that I'm referring to here? Meaning they know their stuff. Like they know it's not just stuff they make up. Hey guys, I had this really cool ayahuasca ceremony and you should hang out with me because I got blissed out. Here, I promise you won't vomit for more than 2 hours. It's not just about momentary experiences in this world. Actually can back up their education with tried and tested experiences from sages throughout the ages. Sages throughout the ages. Did I just say that?
Dr. Seuss is back.
Sorry?
Dr. Seuss is back.
He is. So they understand the scriptural, but they also have experience in it. Yeah? So it's rich in that. The next is...
So what are the two dharmas?
I just did. Scriptural.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
You should pay attention.
I just
So a deep realization of wisdom, yeah, that's what you were thinking about, yeah, which is a deep intellectual understanding of emptiness,
I
yeah.
always thought that one meant perception, direct perception.
One means perception, I can't remember which. One means perception and the other one means intellectual. But the bottom line I'm going to tell you is those people are as rare as there are, well, whatever the most rare thing you can imagine. I ran out of metaphors. Very rare. Maybe one or two on the planet in a lifetime. If you can find a person who you can verify has seen emptiness directly, has had this peak experience, and there are ways to find out the way they talk about it. Do they talk about it by explaining karma? Do they make their life about that and explaining that to the world? Can they back it up with spiritual thing? Is there something about that? And it's like, is there something about that being that you can verify you're projecting that they've seen emptiness directly? Sorry, it gets meta there. Yeah? Then that person you should claw onto and not ever let go. Maybe you should stop everything else you're doing in your life if you're ever going to meet a person like that has had the direct experience of emptiness. Maybe you leave your home country of Australia and maybe you move to the United States where you think they are, and maybe you follow them around the world for 20 years and you forget your career and you desperately beg them to teach you over and over until you get close to the experience you think they've had. It's that kind of important that if you can find a being that has had that peak experience, you won't find them for another lifetime. Maybe there are 2, 3 on the planet at any one time. Yeah. So if you get close to one, if you sniff one, if you're 1 or 2 people removed from them, hang on to dear life. It's worth everything. Because everything else we do, the career, all the typing you did at work 6 years ago, where's that? Right? All the food you ate 6 weeks ago, where's that? All the kisses you gave to that first lover in high school, where's that? Yeah? It all goes. At some point, your body will go. Your identity will go. I've got pictures on my wall, these people from the 1800s. I don't know their names. I have no idea who they are. I found them on an antique shop and I bought them because nobody knows who they are anymore. At some point, your name will go. So there's a way to get out of these cycles and reach a state that is free from that, which is everything turns to crap. And the beings that have had this direct experience of emptiness can help us get there. So that's another quality of teacher. The other one is a master instructor. They know how to communicate in a way that relates to the students listening. Is an image of love, which means they teach because they love you, not because they need your money or attention or anything like that, and they would keep teaching regardless. And the last one is they just never get tired of repeating the same old boring thing over and over and over and over and over until it's understood. Yeah, because there isn't any other way to get out of suffering than to understand these things and put them into practice. And the world will distract you with temporary happinesses that you don't know where they came from until they don't, until those things disappear, until you get your iPhone upgrade, yeah, until Apple upgrades the operating system, and then your Instagram doesn't work as well, and then you'll get unhappy with it, yeah, and then you'll get happy, and then, but you don't know where the happinesses or unhappinesses come from, yeah. So they also say that if you can't find somebody with all those qualities, you should at least find someone that's got the top 3. Yeah. Now, unfortunately for you, they also list some qualities of a student. Yeah. It's not all on the teacher, sorry. What I'm saying is check out the teacher for those qualities. But when you find them, claw and Velcro yourself to them and go for the ride of your life, because it could be in this life that you can impact your mind enough to be free from the stuff that you don't want anymore. The first of the qualities is free from preconceptions, meaning they are prepared to challenge. A good student is prepared to challenge their worldview. Yeah, you don't have preconceptions when you're studying these things. You're like, okay, I'm open mind going to see this thing. And truly investigate like a mind scientist, with logic, with reasoning, testing for yourself. The Buddha said, don't believe everything I say, test it for yourself. And only then will you be able to say with certainty, this works, this doesn't work. Doesn't work. They should have spiritual intelligence. It's like IQ, but SQ, no, SI, spiritual intelligence. It means they're not concerned with the physicality and the everyday things of this world. They're interested with the big questions we are forced to stop asking at the age of 5. Meaning we're not that interested, a good student isn't that interested in how things happen. Oh, the airplane fell down because someone forgot the screw on the left wing and therefore, no, that's how the airplane fell down. But why that airplane? Why did that airplane not have that screw and not the other airplane? The why, that when you are really inquisitive about why is life happening this way, not how, why did it happen this way and to that person and not that person? Why is it me engaged in these ideas? Why death? Why do things have to stop? If you're obsessed with that, and you probably have that energy since your childhood, that's a good student with this wish to understand the world for the sake of stopping it from suffering. And then has high spiritual aspirations, means you want to use it for some deeper goodness, to stop the suffering, to stop death. Like the pen, check this out. This is, I used to be embarrassed of having to share this because I thought I have to keep myself real in the world, right? But I'm getting older, so I have to tell you what I really think. Like the pen, if it ain't coming this way, it's coming that way, right? That's what makes it a pen or a chew toy. Death is the same. The experience of death is the same. It ain't something happening to us, from it to us. What we call death, that transformation where consciousness flips from one experience to another, doesn't have to be that big, horrible. Does it work that way? Does the body rot and break down? Yeah. Does the mind disintegrate in its way of grasping at the world? Yes. But does it have to be a suffering? No. The whole experience can be projected onto, if you know what to do, as the most blissful exit from samsara to nirvana or to enlightenment. So just like the pen, if you know what to do, this technology can be used for transforming completely what we think of as human experience, aging, and death. That's the point. That's what Buddha taught for. Yeah? So a good student has high aspirations of what the hell to do with this information they're inquisitive about. I want to quickly say what samsara is. That huge wheel at the back there, that's where samsara, the cycle of suffering life. It has realms in it, etc. We have all these weird ideas about what samsara is. At the core, it's just the repetitive cycles of getting happy, getting unhappy, getting happy, getting unhappy. Age, birth, sickness, age, death, yeah, etc., etc., etc. It's being forced over and over and over, like Groundhog's Day, to go through this experience, life after life after life, or to go through these mini experiences, our addictions to being happy or unhappy, our addictions to being depressed or not depressed, our addictions to being elated or not elated, our addictions on the phone and the rest. This, I'm happy, I'm unhappy, these cycles are samsara for us, and that can stop. Now, the way to stop them, got two more, and then I'm done. Yeah, I'm trying to get you out of here by 1:45 at the latest. If you want to destroy any spiritual real estate, any kind of these realizations on the three parts, if you want to completely destroy them, live these 8 worldly dharmas that they say. Yeah. Now I have to explain them a little bit. The first 2 are being happy when we get what we want, and the second one is being unhappy when we don't get what we want. Yeah. Now the emphasis here is the state of mind that feels happy because we have got something. It's not about whether we get something. So don't misunderstand this dharma saying, I don't need anything in my world. I don't want anything in my world. That's not the point here. The point is this weird attachment we have to getting more and more and more and more, and being unhappy and unhappy and unhappy when we don't get what we want. The emphasis is on feeling good or feeling bad about getting or not getting. Does that make sense? Because getting is good. There's nothing in Buddhism that says you shouldn't get. In fact, a bodhisattva, one who's trying this path to really free sentient beings from suffering, will want to have more money, more things, etc., because they can do more. We run the non-profit 108 Lives. We go to Nepal once a year. We help out tens, sometimes hundreds of kids to get happy. Yeah, I want more money for that non-profit. We can do more stuff. The Three Jewels gives free classes, meditation, dharma. We go and help the homeless, etc. I want more money for the Three Jewels. Will more money for the Three Jewels actually help me give more of those services? Yes or no?
No.
Yes, it will. In this world, it will. Does it come from me doing this or that? Is another story. In this world, having more abundance at the Three Jewels, I can use for those services. Yes or no?
Sorry. Not from its own side.
No, I've never said it was from its own side. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Thank you. See, that's when you pressure a student, they'll tell you what. Because it's a misconception that a Buddhist practitioner is chilled with nothing. Now, you might be chilled with nothing, but the goal is not to have nothing. The goal is to have ultimate bliss and happiness. Yeah? So yes, you can get stuff. Nothing wrong with getting stuff. Yeah? Yes, you don't want bad stuff happening to you. Nothing wrong with not wanting stuff. But ignorantly wanting and ignorantly not wanting and feeling bad and good, those cycles create more samsara, and that will destroy your spiritual attainments, your realizations, your gains on your spiritual path.
But is it okay to be happy if you get something?
Do you think the Buddha is happy when somebody reaches a state of bliss?
Yes.
Yeah. But do they think that happiness came from that person getting a state of bliss? Trick question. Okay. Of course it's okay to be happy. But to be addicted to happy when you get things means you don't have the correct view. You're going to try and get more of those things to get more happy. And then you start burrowing deeper and deeper into samsara. Yeah, you should feel happy when you get things. But should you be attached to feeling happy is the essence here? No. Your happiness didn't come from getting that thing, which was what Rachel's point was. Right? Your happiness.
So what's the point of getting happy? Therefore?
What's the point of getting happy?
Yeah, I mean, well, like, no, I.
Yeah. What's the point of getting happy?
You know, if you know, it comes from your own side. It's impermanent. It will come and go again.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point of getting happy?
Why will it come and go again? Why will it go?
Because you don't know how to do it.
Because there's a mistake in the way you caused it, and the mistake caused its destruction. You did it in the wrong way. So it grew and it died. But what if you could get it and it never goes away? What if you understood its ultimate cause of the happy and you didn't imbue that seed with the causes for its demise?
But therefore, because it's always there. So it's been always there. It's been always there.
What is being always there?
That happiness.
That happiness.
So do you always
Kind
feel
of
happy?
happiness.
Like,
I think
I'm trying to say that regardless of where I am happy or not, of whatever thing
Yeah.
happens.
Regardless, okay.
That joy has always been in me.
Not when someone's hurting you. There's no joy in that. What happened to the joy when someone's punching you in the face? What happened to that joy when you got cancer? What happened to that joy when someone jumped into the train? It's not there. The potential for it is there, no problem. And you might have the seeds for them, no problem. And you can cause them, but can you cause it permanently? And that's the game. The game is you feel happy, you feel unhappy, because you think it's out there. This is saying to you, don't get lost in finding the happy, unhappy out there. It ain't out there. It never was. It doesn't come that way. Where does it come from? This way. Who put it there? You did. By what? By what you did to others in the past. So does it feel better to
Exactly,
feel
that's
good?
what I'm trying to say. So if you get something really bad, you
Yeah.
know it comes from you. You know.
Well, no, the normal people that are not in this room and haven't studied this, they don't know it comes from them. I thought the boss was forcing me to feel bad, so I wanted to hit the boss, which would have caused an imprint in my mind of hurting another person, and that results in another person hurting me. That's samsara. Yeah? Normal people don't know it's in them. You are discovering that the possibility for happiness is inside of you. Now, can you make that permanent?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but then I think.
Not sometimes.
No. When I'm saying, like, I remember sometimes you said, like, when a karma ripens, it ripens. You know, when you get punched in the face, it's
Yeah.
gonna hurt you. There's nothing you can
Correct.
do, right?
Mhm.
At this moment,
Correct.
It's gonna hurt.
Once
Or I'm
something.
gonna be so happy because I met my husband, whatever. you know, I'm gonna be so happy or so sad.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, there's nothing to do. But the moment after, I know it came from me.
Your reaction to it will cause your future reality. We're getting a little deeper because we're going to discuss karma towards the end of the course. But at some point, these actions are no longer called karma. Yeah. Once you have enough correct view, they are not called karma. They're not producing impermanent results where the happinesses go away. They will create results that will remain. And that way, they're not called karmas. So it's not like you have to put up with suffering in your world. You won't experience suffering in your world. And that's the two physical bodies of the Buddha. We can talk about it another time.
Good,
Yeah. So what I'm saying about the 8 worldly thoughts is that getting addicted to thinking that things are getting something, I got happy. I didn't get something, I got unhappy. When you get in there, which is the same as the hypnosis you get when you do Instagram, yeah, that's the way to erode your spiritual real estate. Yeah. Now the others are simple. Being happy when you feel good and when you don't feel good. Thinking it's something in that stuff. The same with being happy when you get well known on Instagram or otherwise, and not well known, or when you praise people, say good things to you or not. Lastly, promise it's lastly. We talked about emptiness, but we didn't talk about karma, and I just want to touch on it. The last class will cover in detail. Karma is a heavy word, but in essence, it's the cause and effect of your mind. The definition of karma is
Movement of the mind.
movement of the mind and what follows. Okay, so you have 3 kinds of karmas. Raw karma is your mind moves. It's not like good luck or bad luck. Karma, as defined by the Buddha in the Abhidhammakosha, is the movement of your mind and what follows. If you listen to that description, it's mind-blowing. Your mind moves when it now thinks of the universe. Your mind moves when I tell you not to think of a pink elephant. Your mind moves when I ask you to think of your bed. Your mind moves when I ask you to see what's in your fridge. Your mind moves when you remember your first kiss. Yes or no? These are karmas. Yeah? Your mind moves towards something, that's a karma. 3 flavors of karma: good, bad, and neutral. Yeah? If your mind moves with a good intention, you're planting a good mental seed. The result must be
Good.
good. If the intention is bad, the result must be
Bad.
bad. And then you can get, when we talked about the morality, you can get finer and finer. Let's say you develop the habit of moving your mind, karma, about harming other people. Yeah? I want to punch everybody. I hate everybody. Yeah? If you're looking at people and you're disgusted by them, the mind moves and you're coloring it with disgust, hatred, etc. What do you think the result of that will be when you enter a room of random people and they are looking at you? What will your mind tell you they are doing?
But they're just
The same. They're hating you. They think you're disgusting. Yeah? And you're going to see them as more disgusting because they think you're disgusting. Yeah? Cycle, samsara. Yeah? So karma is the movement of the mind and what follows. The rawest karma is every thought you have, every intention you have. Then the 2 other karmas are based on what your thoughts are. You say stupid things or you say wise things. That's another karma. Yeah? What you say to others. Have you ever been in an argument with a loved one and said the stupidest thing that as soon as it came out of your mouth, you wanted to retract it and you couldn't? Who knows that feeling? Yeah, of course we do. That's a karma. Yeah, you recorded it in your mind because you heard yourself say it. It impacted, it broke your heart, didn't it? And it broke their heart too. They looked at you with those eyes that broke. And so that experience, that just placed an imprint in your mind, and you will have the result of that imprint. And then the third, so raw karma is your thoughts, then speech, then your actions. Yeah? You punch somebody, you give something to somebody. Same thing, you watch yourself doing those activities of physicality, and that's a karma in your mind. So that's 3, and they come in 3 flavors. They are, here is something, karma. A certain meaning if you planted it, you will have the result equal to that, to what you planted. We got that? The result is always greater than the cause. When you put in an apple seed in the ground, how big is the apple tree and how many apples does it do? It's no different to the stuff you think, say, and do, not once, every millisecond of your day. Everything you've ever said in your world is inside of you, about to produce your reality. That's where karma and emptiness meet. That's the point of understanding emptiness, correct view. Nothing has a nature. It ain't a pen. It ain't a chew toy. Something forced me. What did? Something I put inside of me. It projected that experience onto an otherwise empty object. So the 4 laws of karma, roughly, are good produces good. The result is always greater than the cause. The last 2 are, if you didn't do a cause, if you weren't generous to other people, you ain't gonna get the results of generosity. If you didn't plant apple trees, you ain't getting apples. Doesn't matter how much you want apples, if you didn't do the causes, you ain't getting the results. Now, conversely, if you are experiencing a result, you must have planted the causes. It's not random. Either things are random or they're caused. When we investigate karma, this will give you a kind of freedom, if you apply it to your mind, of where your mind is projecting your world. If your world is shitty, what must you have in your mind? Yeah, pieces. If your world is joyful, if you have moments of goodness, what must you have put in your mind? Yeah. So let me check. Let me ask you to check your mind. When I told you the story about the person jumping on the train tracks, what came up in your mind? Was it compassion? Was it a wish to help them? Was it a wish it didn't? Was it some kind of frustration? I wanted to stop. Whatever the hell came up in your minds, and it was different for each of you, you put that there. It didn't come from the person jumping. And so when you get the idea of karma and emptiness, it's like this passion you get to investigate the nature of your mind. And once you get good at it, you can't wait to start playing with it like a scientist to produce just the right result. So if you had a good feeling, a wish for compassion for this other person, there's some goodness in you people. And you can turn that on steroids. That's the point of this thing. Mine those goodnesses like they wouldn't be Bitcoins. Yeah. Now, karma is not just about what happens in this life. In this philosophy, once we get towards the end of this course, you'll see that whatever you put in your consciousness will produce your reality beyond this life. And therefore, you see this precious human life. You know you will die. You know this body will end. It's made to be broken. It will break. Doesn't matter how invincible you think you are. But you can put enough imprints as fast as possible with as much wisdom as possible before you get there to have a transformative experience of that moment. And if not, you can have the results of all the efforts of investigation and bodhicitta and the 3 principal paths manifest in whatever the next iteration of your consciousness is. You think you created your life? You think your parents created your life? You came here predetermined, right? Otherwise, we'd all be pretty much the same. You came here with some what do you call it? Some tendencies that others don't have. They didn't come from nothing. They didn't come from if your mind is experiencing the world in a certain way and you understand that it must have been caused, it's just like sperm and egg, 2 tiny cells made this massive body. The same for instances of your thoughts and your mind in some time before created your whole 3D, 6D experience of this universe. And whatever you put in it now must give you a result later. And with that, we're done. Sorry it took a while. Don't forget to check out the readings and quiz. This course is dense with content. The content can transform your life. It's not just an intellectual understanding. Yeah, it really is for you to apply to your everyday issues. How? You can ask the people that have been in some of these classes before. Put up your hand if you've done at least 3 of the ACI courses. These people know enough about karma and emptiness to be able to help you. So look at them, go to the one you like. If they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, go away. Before we finish, we want to dedicate our goodness, give it away so we can plant the seeds of getting more wisdom. Stephen?
Sashe Purgi Jushin Metotra Rira Linchi Nyunde Hadi Sange Shindu Mite Duargi Roku Namda Shimla Jiparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Kewa Divyoku Sunam Yeshe Sokso Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejun Wei Dampa Kuni Parsho.
Thank you so much for listening to these ideas, and I hope if any of them touched your mind, before you walk out the door and collect your balloons with all the crap you had before you entered this room, remember that's also coming from you. You don't have to experience them that you were experiencing before. If anything impacted your mind, you have the power to continue that impact. It didn't come from my words. I know, because some of you were asleep and some of you were excited. So it's not the words, it's something in you creating an experience that it's possible to transform this world. There's nothing more to do in this world than seek a path to happiness. Now, whether it's a path or not for you, that's really something you have to investigate. It is for me, and that's why I'm happy sharing it. So I hope I see you next Thursday. If not, may you have a happy life. If you enjoyed it, come back. The 3 Jewels is a non-profit. I'm required to give you a speech. Please give generously if you can to help the 3 Jewels move. We're about to move to a new location. Hannibal will take care of you if you want to help. If not financially, you can help with any of your skills. Giving produces abundance. I know it sounds weird coming from me telling you all these things. Anyway, thank you for coming. Have an awesome night. Don't let this stuff just become normal, okay? There's magic available in your world if you investigate your mind, yeah? And from the looks around the room, I think you all have really good minds. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.